Hey everybody, I'm Alan,
And I'm JJ.
and this is a special edition of Two Dads and a Joke. Normally we get together and give you a six-pack of dad jokes and a little bit of parenting advice, but today we got a special announcement. And JJ, I've been holding off for so long on this thing. It's like I've been in like stuck at a stoplight for a couple months now. Because actually, to get ready for this announcement, like I did all this work and got it ready. But when you're sitting at the red light, did you know sometimes you can hear the lights talking to each other?
I hope they're not talking to you.
No. I heard one whispering the other day. The red light said to the green light, "Hey, don't look at me. I'm changing."
They are always...
So we got the green light, JJ. We got the green light.
We got the green light. That's right. So, all right. Well, so do you want to tell everybody why we're here?
Today, as of now, when this video goes up, Still Small Voice is available in stores for purchase. Not pre-order, not pre-sale. You can get it, and if it's electronic copy, you can get your eyes on it right away. Or you can get one of these great paperbacks from Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I've actually seen a lot of interest on Barnes & Noble for it, so that's pretty cool. And we got it because of how I did it. Your local bookstore can order it, so that's pretty cool. I'm using a new service, Ingram Spark, and it's been pretty awesome.
Perfect. Excellent. So, hey, I got to ask you some questions about that cover, though.
Okay.
You have a big top in the background.
I do.
Yeah. You
can see this, or if you look back there.
Yeah, I'm looking back there. Now that was designed by Lori Ann Weldon, and did a fabulous job. So, what can you tell us about that big top? Where are these kids heading? Without giving us spoilers.
Well, so if you've read the first book, you remember there's this dude, the Bishop, and essentially the Bishop is going to come back around, and apparently his base of operations is this big top. Okay.
So, well, I'm excited about reading this one, and which I have not read it yet. I'm excited about it. So I have a few questions for you because we want to talk about your book launch here in just a minute and everything you got going on. So my first question really is, how do you come up with your plots when you really think about it?
Oh, that's tricky. That's hard. So I think the big thing with me is I think in terms of kind of some milestones or markers along the way that I want to make sure happen. So in this story, I did think about this big top and how do the kids end up there, right? And so I don't know if you ever heard of a flight plan, like what they use to do air travel?
Oh yeah. Every pilot has one.
Right, and so the way the flight plan works is you point out I want to go from point A to point B, but then you got to put in C, D, E, and F as your alternate plans of how to get there in case the weather or whatnot. And so, in the real world, I've been on a flight from where I live to Minneapolis, Minnesota, but ended up in South Dakota for a brief time on a tarmac, waiting to get there. And that's kind of how the story works out. Is I come up with a key set of items I want to have happen, just like scenes come to mind, and then I figure out how to put them together. And sometimes they don't go together how I thought.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, that discovery writing kicks in one day, and all of a sudden, this story in particular, it was, why don't I tell the story from the bad guy's point of view for a bit?
Yeah.
Let's see how that works out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's a very different story.
Yeah, you want to go from Texas to New York, and all of a sudden you look up and you're in Nevada, and you're like, how did I get here? So.
My favorite one ever, though, was I was going to New York from... where was I going from? I don't know, Minneapolis or something like that, and had to take a brief stop off in New Jersey so they could get the blue juice out of the airline toilet. It was awesome. I don't understand why we stopped to deal with the airline toilet, but that's what happens in stories sometimes. You end up with a crazy cycle.
Oh, it wouldn't be Two Dads and a Joke if we weren't talking about an airline toilet.
That's right. This is high quality. This is the most high quality book launch you're going to see during the pandemic. I got to say that.
Yeah. So here's a question, and seeing we're both authors, and we both like dad jokes and stuff like that. But do your characters, do they ever talk to you at odd times? I mean, do you ever just be walking down the hall and all of a sudden you just kind of stop and go, huh? And just kind of hear that character's voice?
I actually hear those characters' voices every day because I live with my characters.
And explain to us why.
Yeah, so in my story, I write what I know, right? And what I know is my kids, quite frankly. And so the people in this story, a lot of them are patterned, not exactly after my kids, but there are mannerisms and there's certain things that they say. If you notice, like the older siblings call Ethan E every now and then because that's what they called the real Ethan along the way. And so I do literally hear my kids, voices in the hallway that aren't maybe related to the story. But at the same time, I've had some really almost powerful moments while writing of, and I don't want to give this away, but I had a line come the other day that literally was, straight out of something my kids said to each other in a stressful situation. And it was perfect. And so for me, I do have occasional conversations with imaginary people. I think all authors do. Mm-hmm. But, my inspiration's my kids, my family. So there's a lot of that's just straight out of, you'll see some things in there. Ethan, when he was little, used to call oatmeal oatmeal. So that's in there, just little homages to my kids.
Nice. I like that. That's kind of cool. So I like it when authors do that. All right. So moving on. Tell me one thing that readers don't know about Alan. Tell me something. Maybe even I don't know.
Something readers don't know about me. When I was in 6th grade, I wrote a story that was 100 pages long, and my mom typed it up for me. And it was called The Shock Troops Year of Conquest. And it was quite a riveting tale of a young 6th grade kid who saved the world from the Russian menace. So there you go. That's something people don't know, that I had to work. It's previously unpublished, and I don't believe it'll ever be published because it's so special to me.
I like it. I like it. What was that title again?
The Shock Troops Year of Conquest.
Okay. I did something.
It was quite the G.I. Joe, Star Wars, Transformers mashup of technology and awesomeness from me as the main character.
Yeah, my first story was in the 6th grade. It was a short story, and it was pretty much a ripoff of the movie Young Guns, except for they had lasers and they could teleport and things like that. But it was horribly bad. So here's something. Let's get vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Let's get vulnerable for a minute.
Uh-oh.
Have you ever read a book?
Hold on, if we're gonna do that, but I might need to administer some anesthetic.
We need, let's get it first. You want to do
knock
that?
Myself out?
Yeah. Have you ever read a book that made you cry?
Oh, well, I hate to say this. I know this sounds lame, but my books make me cry.
Yes.
Like, if you've read Light of Mine, that part at the end where Ethan goes and actually realizes that he can save everybody. He's afraid, but he can save everybody. I choke up. Like, I was reading that to my kids, and I'm choking up in this because he's the hero, and it's all good. And I've got some parts in Still Small Voice that do the same thing. And to me, I feel like, as lame as it is, because it's your imagination, like, why are you having this big emotional moment? Yeah. But for me, it's really that's where the real writing is in my mind. I've got, and actually the next book that's not out for a bit, Fear No Evil, there's a chunk of that just made me bawl my eyes out when I got done writing it. And I think there's a level, well, that's really lame, but I think it's because you're reaching deep inside yourself to bring forward this truth. And that truth, you probably, a lot of the truths I've got that I'm bringing forward came from pain, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't think some people realize that sometimes the emotional moments and stories come from our personal pain sometimes that we're wanting to address. So I've actually heard that some of the best comedians actually, were depressed individuals who
Oh
brought
yeah.
forth, that personal pain to find humor in their own personal darkness. So, well, let's lighten it up. You got anything for me? You got a joke or something you can pull in here?
Well, I went to the doctor today and he told me I had type A blood, but it was a typo.
Okay. Speaking of typos, do you have a favorite typo you've ever put into a story and then went back and noticed it later?
Oh, I don't have any typos that I've done that with that I can think of that later I noticed that. I mean, you do find typos, and I mean that's the thing. Anyone that can pick up a book,
Yeah.
and they reading through it and they find the typo, they just need to put a gold star next to it because that is a heroic typo. That typo has made it past
That's
85, 100 swaps of automated tooling to find the typo, and then 18 passes of an editor, and somehow it survived. That's like the Ultra Megalord typo when it's still in there when it's printed.
Have you ever had anybody email you about a typo?
Yeah. So actually, what's funny about it, I actually had a reviewer. So I sent out pre-release copies that were of an early printing, and then there were some errors in it that I corrected. But that first batch of books I bought had some errors in it. So that actually came up in one of my reviews. Was, well, the copy of the book I had these errors in it. And I'm like, yeah, but that was because anyway, yeah. So yeah, you got to watch out for those heroic typos.
Oh yeah. I had somebody email me once about a typo, and I wanted to type back. I was like, at this point, I just don't care. I refrained.
Exactly.
I refrained. All right, so here's a. What's the weirdest thing you've written notes on for a story idea?
So the weirdest thing so far has to do with basically tanning and hiding a cougar pelt.
What? Did you research this?
So I'm this is complicated, so bear with me for a minute. So my dad and my brother were talking about how there were lions, not like Sahara lions, but mountain lions, that kind of thing, cougars running around in Iowa.
Okay.
And how we should all go hunting and whatnot. And so as I was thinking about this character, this uncle character, that's in Still Small Voice, I just thought it would be amazing if he had a big cloak with a lion's head symbol on the top of it, right? I just thought that would be that would be awesome.
Exactly.
Right? Uncle should be this awesome, scary frontier guy with a big thing on his head, and I was just like, it's gonna be awesome. But then I was kind of like, well, does he start out that way? And then we have this scene that involves, basically there's a lion involved somewhere along the way, and now you got to actually tan this thing and make it so you can actually make the whole get up, right? And if one of the things, the storyline's kind of noted for is this description of, frontier life, right?
Yes.
There's milking cows and there's all this stuff. So I felt like I had to have some realisticness to making this hide work. And so I had to research it, took a bunch of notes and watched videos on it, talked to tanners at frontier fairs and whatnot to come up with, okay, this is how this is going to work, and I even had to adjust the storyline to give it enough time that it was sort of plausible that it would work. And so, I ended up building the whole story around this hide. Because it's awesome.
I know. That's nice. That's nice. I would have never gotten into that much trouble. But there's been a lot of things I have gone to the trouble of researching.
Sure.
We writers, folks, can get off and just start looking at things that nobody else would ever even be interested in looking at sometimes.
That's totally true. You all of a sudden, because you want it to, and what's silly about it too is you spend all of this time, and it's like you may only have a paragraph or a sentence
exactly
about what you've generated 20,000 lines of research notes.
Exactly, and you've spent countless hours researching it, and it's like,
yeah,
it made 2 sentences. So
yeah.
All right, so a couple more questions here. What's your favorite underappreciated novel?
Okay, my favorite underappreciated novel is Battlefield Earth.
Oh.
And I know that sounds a little bit odd. People that have seen the movie have this complete disrespect for it, and I don't blame them because the movie's bad.
The movie was, was that John Travolta?
Yeah, it was so not what the book was. It was so far from the book. But as a kid, my whole thing with it was I went to the library book sale, where they clear their shelves or whatever, and there was a copy of it, and it was a hardback. Yeah. It's like 800-page hardback, this big, thick book, and it was for $1, but the retail was $25. So I thought it was such a deal, I went and bought it.
Yeah.
And then I started reading it, and my teacher in 6th grade had this thing where you could record your minutes of reading and then turn them in for prizes.
Nice.
So I just determined that I was going to get the most amount of points and never turn them in. And so I read that book like 6 times in 6th grade and read like 7,600 minutes that year.
Wow.
And so and I don't know I think the big thing about it is it's so big and so expansive in the story. You kind of forget what happened at the beginning by the end. And so you have to read it again to get back to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like this series on my shelf,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some thick books.
Yeah, they are. They're doorstops. So here's another question. Let's getting back to Still Small Voice, okay? Mm-hmm. Because it's going to be coming out soon.
Mm-hmm. It's out now.
It's out now. Okay. Yes, my mistake. I misspoke. What do you hope readers gain from reading this?
I really hope more than anything else that parents and children have real conversations about the Holy Spirit around this book. That's really my goal. I think in this day and age, there's this idea of, well, everything's just empirical science, and that Christianity stuff is just some mumbo jumbo, blah blah blah, and it's not real. But when you read the Bible and you read firsthand accounts of Christians over the centuries, whether it's sort of the horrific tales of the Fox's Book of Martyrs, or just stories from in the world of Christians, they talk about God talking to them in some way. And I don't, it's not necessarily there's this audible voice you see in the movies, you shall do this. Yeah. It's not like that, right? It's a still small voice. That's the point, right? It was in the wind. There's just this feeling that this is right. And so I really hope that, the Christian families that pick this up use this as a teachable moment for their kids to be listening for that still small voice, listening for God's prompting on their life. That's really the whole point of the book.
Yeah, the title really reminds me, and I'm sure this is where you might have gotten it from, but that point where Elijah was in the cave, and he thought God was in the earthquake, and then the fire, and then the strong wind, and then went all down, he heard in a still small voice. Just a small whisper. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. We look for God sometimes, or the Holy Spirit. We look to hear Him in the big things sometimes.
Right.
And sometimes He's, waiting for us to turn the distractions off. And
and there's another bit here that's just that's sort of an underlying theme is consequences.
Correct.
Is that God has things that He is prompting us to do, and we have an obligation to do them. There's the whole it talks about Jonah and the whale, and right, and the fact, in its own way, it talks about that concept of God has given someone some instructions, and are you following them? And if not, maybe there will be consequences, and what are those? And that's kind of revealed throughout the story.
Absolutely. All right, so what are you working on next? What's coming next from Alan?
So we've got Fear No Evil as the next book in the series. That is with my editor right now. The amazing Sarah Grimm is working on that to make it awesome.
She is amazing. She's my critique partner.
Yeah,
excellent choice.
She's awesome. I love how I love both her feedback. If she gives you feedback, you know it's like real and you need to fix it. But she's so nice about it. You feel like you've gotten a blessing that you were wrong. Like I don't know how to describe it, but her feedback is just the best ever. And the other thing about it is it's always on point. Like there's so many very important things I've changed about the story over time because of what she said. So she's got Fear No Evil. And when that comes back, I've got, a month or so of edits, and then God willing, it'll be out in December. So we're cranking it through this. However, Armor of God, which is the one after that, I just have an outline for. Okay. So I probably won't be able to pull that off in another, but that may take a whole nother year to get out.
All right. So you have basically 2 books coming out this year for 2020.
Yeah,
nice. I'm pretty sure we need it in 2020. So.
And that's true. I mean, well, and there is this underlying, Fight of the Darkness thing that's in there. And so it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that about 2020. I've had this on my heart for 11 years. Yeah. 12 years I've been working on this. And, I thought the world was in precarious shape when I started writing it. I had no idea that this was the time God would have it put out, that this was when it was needed. So there you go.
I know. So, well, why don't you close us out with a good dad joke?
A good dad joke. Okay. Let me find one here. Okay, here we go. What kind of train eats too much?
I have no idea.
A choo-choo train.
That was so obvious.
It was, yeah. How did you not pull on that one? Well, and so along the lines of transportation, I'm going to go hop out here real quick and get in the car. I've got copies of Still Small Voice and Light of Mine that I am dropping off at the little libraries in my town. And so we'll put that out there where we can, the locations out locally so people can know where to pick them up.
All right.
So I'm stopping off here at 503, whatever street this is. Stopping off here at 503 Wood Street in Bloomington, Illinois at the little library. Gonna drop off a book, actually both books, Light of Mine and Still Small Voice, for the kids in the area to enjoy. Stopping off here at the Morris Avenue Garage and their little book box. I think this is so cool that they have what they have where they have it. We're here at 409 Grove Street, and this little box is special to me in that this is just down the street from the neighborhood that my kids grew up in when I wrote the first book, Light of Mine. So this is pretty cool that I get to drop off some books here.